Everybody, Chris and Lumen here. Now, a lot of you, not everybody, but a lot of you joined us on this channel after July 15th, when everybody was picking up on, things are going to get weird. And Cliff High was talking about July 15th and future forecasters and all this stuff. And we had this basic kind of proposal, I guess you could say, that everything was coming to a close soon. Now, I was aiming for the end of August, and alas, we're still here. But we had a period where the clues kind of ran out, and I didn't see any kind of stuff ahead of us that was too big. I mean, there was some little stuff that was astrological, and then I've always said that if things continue, like something has to pop, like the way things are in the world right now, something would have to pop off before the election without getting into the why and all that. But I just kind of like went back to doing what I do. But a couple things have changed. First thing was, go back, what was it, 2.5 weeks when they had that debate. Something happened. We still don't know exactly what. I mean, it could be a couple different things, uh, from a negative side or a positive side. We don't know. But almost everybody that I know that's energetically sensitive got knocked off their balance for a couple days. And then she showed me something which got me reconnected. And then there was like this whole new focus that she wanted to do. She told me to start building more stuff, doing more stuff with the Benedict. And then the next thing that happened was all of a sudden business just picked up in a huge freaking way, like above normal. In the sense that I got from it, it wasn't because I was offering anything particularly new. What I was getting and what other people that I'm connected to that are intuitive was picking up was like, people are now on a subconscious level feeling some sort of urgency, and they're trying to connect to the light because something's coming. Well, in the last couple days, a bunch of stuff has been popping into my sight. First, it was just one thing. Then it was another. Then it was another. I'm like, oh, we're starting to build towards something here again. And then I was talking to my astrologer friend last night about it. And as we were talking, more things were popping up, and I just started writing them all down. Some of them are they might seem small by themselves, but they're connecting to different things, painting a picture. And I'm just going to lay everything that I have out here right now, because my hope is that some of the things that I bring up might spark something in someone else to speak up, something someone else notices. Sometimes I get some of my best missed clues from people in the audience. It was viewers that pointed out like the last two really big things that were hidden in iPet Goat 2 that I didn't see myself. So if I just lay it all out here, what I'm seeing, then maybe more heads put together, we'll see a pattern. But there is a pattern, and the story of the world, the story of the simulation that we're being presented with, is very clearly building up to something. Very clearly. And the stuff that it is building up to is kind of like the stuff that has not yet happened that is in iPet Goat 2. So with the indicators that I have right now, we're looking at a wild west of October. Now, any one of these dates, this is what we know from experience. Dates don't mean squat. They're like markers, but don't ever kind of like say, oh, the big thing, which is getting out of here, is going to happen on such and such a date. But it's around, things can be around about this time frame. So anyway, I'm gonna lay it all out. There's some new things that I haven't heard anyone else say that just popped into my head as I was talking to my friend, and I'm gonna see what you think about it. So if you want to know more and explore this with us, then don't go away.
Just another war, just another family torn. It's just another kill. The countdown begins to destroy us. I need a hero to save me now. I need a hero. I need a hero to save my life. A hero will save me. I need a hero to save my life. I need a hero just in time. Save me just in time. Save me just in time.
Okay, so this type of stuff, a lot of people would interpret it as doom, but remember, we don't see it that way. We don't see it that way. We have been preparing for a year and a half for this thing that we're in as souls, this simulation, this growth period, this big cycle, this very, very long class that we've been growing in to come to a close. So we can get on to a bigger, better place that doesn't suck like this place does. And I've seen enough and I've done enough to know that it's all real. Like I have no fear of anything. Like I've been outside of this realm. I've been outside of my body. I've been on other dimensions and levels with her. Like I've seen a lot. Like I know I exist outside of this place, and I know I exist a part of it. I know that I'm simply plugged into this meat suit, and this meat suit is part of this three-dimensional material physical reality. It's not what we actually are. And the other thing that has changed in the last week or so is after I did that last video, that was like the follow-up, the last two videos that had the iPet Goat 2 stuff in it, where I was talking about the current political state. Like as soon as I did that, like I just, it's like I couldn't care about it anymore. Everything now just looks like this stupid puppet show that I am forced to sit here and watch. Like I can't get up and leave. Like this puppet show is stupid. I'm a grown man. I don't want to watch a puppet show. Like I know this is all scripted and staged, and it's just a freaking TV. It's a live action TV show, and I'm like I'm not. Nothing's going to surprise me. But we have to kind of ride it out till the end. That's even in the Nakamati. Like even when you've beaten the game, you now have to basically sit and wait and endure till the end. And that's a pretty apt description because that's what it feels like, enduring. I'm enduring this nonsense. Media is so freaking stupid now. I mean, it always has been, but now it's just so obvious. So like authority. What do we say? The number one rule of a Gnostic is, whatever authority tells you, assume the opposite to be true. And it's so obvious now. It's just anything that the world tries to tell us, it's non-stop, like non-stop gaslighting. Non-stop gaslighting and lies. And it's getting freaking annoying. It's getting annoying. It's like when they can't hide it anymore, they basically just yell at you and tell you that's not what you're seeing. That's a conspiracy theory. That's not true. And that's not working on anybody anymore. So this cannot continue much longer. So what are the big signs that we're looking at? Okay, so the first big one, the first big hot date is October 2nd, 10/22. That's the one we talked about last. That's the one that another YouTuber pointed me in the direction of like, hey, there's a iPet Goat 2 connection here. And I probably never would have even seen it had they not pointed it out. But when they did point it out, I looked at it myself and I'm like, yep, that's kind of what it looks like. And considering how much of a map iPet Goat 2 has been up to this point, and what we've already shown and demonstrated in the videos that we've done since July 15th, some of this stuff you just can't see or make sense of until something else happens, to put it in context. Okay, so what we're talking about here is just like last October, there's always a ring of fire eclipse, but this one in particular is not going over the United States. This one is going directly over Easter Island. Now consider that Easter Island is not a huge island. We're not talking about Australia or something here, but that's where they've got these big stone statues, like one of the big ancient megalithic type things that, we don't know why they're there. We don't know what it really means. But that path of totality going through the ocean is going to go right over top of that. And that other YouTuber pointed out that in the final scene where the dancer is dancing around the fire, if you look through the window behind it, it looks like one of those stone heads. And maybe to a lesser degree, some of the stones when Christ is sailing off into the sunset at the end of I Pet Goat 2 kind of resembles it. But, that could be a coincidence too. But the one where they're dancing, I'm like, yeah, that definitely looks like it. That definitely looks like it. Now, it's not just that, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff that goes with October 2nd as well. The first one being, I forget, I didn't write down like what the actual name is, like Rosh Hashanah or something like that, is, the end of October 2nd starts the Feast of Trumpets. Trumpets is a big thing. It's a big sign for this time. That's the first wave of the big judgments when the day of the Lord starts. It actually starts in the seals. It starts with the sixth seal. But, once it really kicks off, it starts with the sixth seal, and then there's a pause, and everyone's like, holy crap, what the heck just happened, for like half an hour, and then the rest of it kicks off, and it doesn't stop until it's done. And also, she pointed out a long time ago, or kind of insinuated to me, what we've been saying here lately about how these big names that you hear all the time in the news, in the stories, like who are the people in the world that everyone talks about? They are all scripted characters for this outside story of the world for us, and Trump is one of those characters. And another viewer pointed out, like, there's all sorts of weird stuff around him, like even those old books, like I forget, it was like, was it late 1800s, I forget, or early 1900s, somebody wrote these books. I think one was called The Last President. The other one was like, was it the same name, like Baron Trump's Magical Adventure or something? I mean, the drawn picture of the kid even looks like Baron Trump, and his parents lived like where they live, like crazy stuff. Like you can't make this stuff up type of stuff. There's always something that's been different about him within this story. And she pointed out, trumpet, Revelations, Apocalypse, Last President. I need to look that up real quick. Okay, the author's name was Ingersoll Lockwood, and it was around what I read. It was like late 1800s or something like that. And one of the books was called 1900, The Last President. And then there's two books about a character named Baron Trump. So yeah, I mean that's always been some crazy weird stuff. But yeah, October 2nd, Day of Trumpets, or the Feast of Trumpets, that's a big thing. October 3rd, this is going off top, a lot of this stuff is off the top of my head. Someone else pointed out that in India, it starts like 9 days, which is a celebration of, it's a different name. I don't know them all by heart. but basically it's like the mother goddess in all her different incarnations, which would be connected to her because she is Sophia and Shiva are pretty much not Shiva, Shakti are pretty much the same thing. That starts October 3rd. What else do I got here? Okay, once we get into the astrological stuff, we've been talking a lot about, me and my friend, this whole time period, which really kicked off earlier in the year, has to do with like the outer planets being in retrograde, stuff about Uranus, stuff about Pluto and Saturn and all this stuff. And the areas that they're in, that they're affecting, has to do with breaking down systems. I think that's in Capricorn right now. So it's aiming at finishing up the cycle that started a ways back, that breaks down like all these old structures, all these old systems that we're under. So we're still expecting all sorts of things, like we're teetering on the brink of a new war or wars, because I saw that today. A bunch of videos popped up in my feed. We're sending more troops over there to help with Israel and Hezbollah and throw more gas on that fire. And then you got Ukraine and Russia going on there. And I've been seeing everyone says nukes are fake, and maybe they are to some degree. I mean, if you're talking about like those initial test videos that they always show you in movies and stuff like that, yeah, those are obviously staged somehow, because it's like, oh, I'm filming a house getting obliterated by a nuclear blast, but somehow the camera is unaffected. It's 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 just dumb. It's like these like those scare tactics types TV shows, like, oh, we're playing a scary prank on someone, but it's being filmed in the same room by someone who is clearly holding a shoulder mounted camera. So what, the people being scared don't notice this camera person? It's one of those things where it's obviously fake, it's obviously staged, and just people aren't thinking too much about it. But either which way, there's some kind of, bigger type of bomb. And I've been seeing a lot of videos lately over there where these bombs going off are just seem a lot more severe than usual. Some of the shock waves and things, like who knows what they're freaking using. But either which way, they're big bombs. We know that much. There's a lot of threats going on along that. There's stuff like that in IPEC GOAT too. But it all ties with this astrological period that we're in, that is going to end soon. Like, so, and then these things are not going to be near these important signs for quite some time. In some cases, like 20 years. So where everything is moving right now, it's coming to a head. And by coming to a head, we're talking about mostly like October, maybe early November on the outside. And then everything kind of shifts. So, yeah, like I said earlier, with the media and the gaslighting, all the stuff that's going on with elections and these freaking puppet people that they're putting up here, everything is just freaking upside down and crazy. But when it comes to the astrology, one of the things that she kept mentioning is the nodes, the south node and the north node. And I can't explain this stuff as easily as astrologers can, but you can look it up. But right now we're looking at, the south node is in Libra, north is in Aries. Now these things are sometimes referred to as the head of the dragon and the tail of the dragon, the nodes. So the south node is in Libra. And I think we just went into the Libra time period. And one of the things that kept popping up over and over and over again is this symbol, which looks like the Omega sign. And that symbol that looks like the Omega sign is built into the symbology of Libra. Okay, and then the astrological glyphs for the north and south nodes look very similar to that same thing that looks like an omega sign. And we're just going back and forth and talking about this, me and my friend. And then it popped into my head what I mentioned a couple times, the personal sign she gave me in regards to the knives that I designed. And the last one was called the JX Omega. Like Lumen actually gave me the idea for that name. And I just thought it was because like it was the last one that we did or we were going to do. And then like I've been waiting for a couple years for the company to make more of them. And the day that they finally sent me the sample, this recap, the day that they finally sent me the sample was, I don't remember the exact day, but I remember stating that on the Julian calendar, it was August 8th. So it was later than that, but on the actual Julian calendar, it was August 8th. It was when that knife showed up, which is the JX Omega. And she explained in that previous video how many of the other names for those big outdoor knives, the names were actually inspired for all this end time stuff, and I didn't even realize it. So again, Omega coming up, Omega coming up, Omega coming up, over and over again. And what else is Libra associated with? Scales. Scales and justice. I said in the last video, remember justice is going to come up again. So scales of justice, that's her. So in that higher regard, justice is kind of like the day of the Lord, you know, when the scales are balanced, you know, because she's got the scales and she's got a sword. And if you actually look at, let's see here, I'll pause it because it'll take me a sec. Now in the Modern Spellcasters Tarot, the Justice card, she's got the Wheel of Fortune up above her head as well. Plus one of her hands is like skeletal. And we know it's the Wheel of Fortune because that's what it looks like in the Wheel of Fortune card on that particular one. And this deck has got a bunch of encoded stuff in it because when she first told me about this countdown cycle back in April of last year, that's when she was showing me the encoded stuff at the top. See where you got Aries and Taurus, and then you've got that hybrid eclipse symbol. We had a hybrid eclipse, and it was April 20th, 2023. And that was the day that Aries turns into Taurus. Or is it Taurus into Aries? I forget. But like that, lining up that perfectly, that's not something that happens like all the time. So she was basically pointing out to me like this specific date in this specific year was starting this countdown. It's like we got down around here, and we had the Ring of Fire eclipse, and we got back around to the August 8th, and then once we got to the big Great American eclipse, that started off the final countdown. I didn't know if it was going to go any further past that, but apparently now we're looking at this October 2nd eclipse as being big, which, as I just pointed out, lines up with the Feast of Trumpets and all this stuff, Libra, and all these signs and symbols that keep popping up over and over and over again everywhere I look, especially with her and the cards I draw and stuff like that. Two big signs that keep coming up is the Omega sign and justice. Justice in the scales. Now there is something, let's see. Yeah, there's no other big eclipses for years after the 10/20, 10/2 that have any kind of special significance. Going back to the north and south node, which those symbols are the same, and the tail of the dragon. What popped into my head when we were talking, keep in mind a lot of the stuff that's in the Bible is astrology symbolism. What popped into my head, it was Revelations 12. Oh, last thing. Yeah, that's another good connection. Revelations 12 is, the dragon and the woman clothed in the sun, which is, I think, the North Node card in the Black Moon astrology deck. But it talks about the dragon's tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky. That same thing lines up with the first trumpet judgment. Because the book of Revelations is kind of weird, where it's telling you about the sequence of things, but then there's all this stuff peppered in between it that's kind of like filling in the blanks between it. But it just popped into my head as I was talking about it last night, dragon's tail. And that must have something to do with the South Node, all the symbology popping up. And then throwing this in here just now as I'm thinking about it, that's Revelations 12. Well, I saw another YouTuber make a post yesterday, and it's not a YouTuber that I subscribe to, so I don't know how it ended up in my feed unless she wanted it there. But he was saying that, I think it was yesterday, was the 7-year anniversary of the Revelations 12 sign. I know Kenneth has talked about that in the last month or so. So it was like October. Oh, that was September. That's why it stood out, because that's the 923 that always comes up. So it was September 23rd, 20. What was 20? Was it 2017? I forget. Maybe it's 2014. I don't know. I'm spacing. But there was a day where we had this astrological sign. It was like Virgo. It was like the woman with the crescent moon at her feet and the stars, like the way everything, the constellations and the planets and everything lined up perfectly. It was basically like the Revelations 12 sign. So now that was exactly 7 years ago. And we're going into all this other stuff, and the same stuff is now coming up again. The dragon and the tail, and she's the woman clothed in the sun. Like, it's all coming back full circle. So a lot of people are kind of picking up on this stuff from different angles. Well, here's another one for October 2nd. Our old friend Uranus is conjunct with Algol again. That was the July 15th thing. But then it was Uranus and Mars conjunct in Algol. This is just Uranus, but I saw a post where I think they said it was a sextile. Mars is actually opposing, I forget, something that had to do with the astrology for like the United States. So, and Mars being like the violent action thing. Yeah, that one's a little bit weird. So it's pointing at, stuff at the US again, which is, and when all this stuff goes down, it's going to be very US centric. That's even in iPet Goat 2. That's in Revelations, Mystery of Babylon. So yeah, you got Uranus conjunct the Algol again, the demon star, on October 2nd as well. Now, Pluto in Capricorn ends on November 19th. So Capricorn is worldly system type stuff, and Pluto is the wrecking ball. So all this stuff should be wrapped up by then. Maybe it's 11/11, November 11th, who knows? Let's see. Yeah, and all that stuff started all the way back in 2008, and it's coming to a close in November of this year. Now, the one other big thing and this stuff just keeps piling up. I'm piecing it together, but this is kind of like a loose explanation of the signs and symbols and the astrology and things like that. But there's one other thing that keeps coming up, and we picked up on some of the relevance of it last night for the first time. And I know everybody's heard about this, but have you really thought about it yet? So everybody's probably heard about how, oh, Earth's getting a second moon for 2 months. Is it now? Sometimes you don't want to just take things at face value, because she keeps bringing that to my attention. People keep mentioning to me. And then when I was talking to my friend last night, we got to talking about it. I'm like, you know what? I feel like I need to look this up, because I couldn't remember, it was 2 weeks or whatever. It was like 2 months. So we started looking at this logically instead of just accepting what they say. Okay, so here's the story that they would have you believe. They would have you believe that some astronomers in South Africa saw a rock in space that is, brace yourself, 33 feet long. So there, right there, that should perk your ears up, because the whole 33 thing. That is not a big rock in a big sky that's pretty much dark all the time. It's not like this thing's got sparklers all over or something like that. But you're telling me, media that gaslights and bullshits us constantly, you're telling me that these astronomers saw a 33-foot long rock in space, and using magical computer, MacGuffin wizardry, they just determined that this 33-foot freaking rock is going to get captured by the Earth's orbit, and it's going to stay in this Earth's orbit for 2 months before flying off again. Really? You know that. But they're reporting it like it's a set thing. Now here's where it gets interesting, and it's a callback to earlier in the video. When I looked up the article, I was inspired to look up at the article again. So apart from the whole like, oh, we saw a 33-foot long rock in space and we determined it's going to get captured by the Earth's orbit and it's going to fly around for 2 months, and what freaking sense does that make? But it's going to, oh, I don't want to mess up this word. Let me check it real quick. Okay, I couldn't find the exact article. I think it's still open on my laptop, but it was the article I was meant to see, because it said it will make a, in quotes, horseshoe shaped orbit. So the magical mystery 33-foot long rock that you magically determined is going to get captured by Earth's gravitational pull and stay for a determinate amount of time before it somehow escapes Earth's gravitational pull. Like, that particular mystery magic rock also has a horseshoe shaped orbit. You know what else looks like a horseshoe? The omega sign. So here's my theory. This is just what popped into my head. It could have been her. I don't know. But it just popped into my head. Because ever since it first came up, this whole, well, we're getting a second mini moon story has felt weird. And I think it feels weird to other people because other people keep bringing it up. I don't even know if the thing actually exists. Now, they claim like all professional telescopes can see it. Really? Yeah, I want to see that. I want to see somebody spot the freaking mystery 33-foot long rock in space. But I think the whole story is some kind of signal to people in the know. And that's one thing I want people to scratch their brains about what other type of connected symbology could that relate to that I'm not seeing. She's popping the moon card into my head. I remember I've said before, like the moon keeps popping up, moon card, moon card. But what if this thing doesn't even freaking exist? But it's just this big freaking crazy tale of, astronomical freaking it's about as believable as one of the latter Fast and the Furious movies to me. But it just happens to be 33 foot long because it's so easy to measure things with the telescope deep in space. And it's just magically going to be from this date to this date in a horseshoe shape. No, this is like some sort of BS story that's like it's like a signal. It's like a coded signal to people that know something. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. There's a 33-foot long space rock making a miracle orbit that's horseshoe shaped. Now, the horseshoe keeps coming up. That's the thing. That's the sign that keeps coming up. So you got horseshoe shaped magical space rock orbit. We're in Libra, which has got a symbol shaped like the horseshoe, and that's also connected to justice. You've got factors with the north and south nodes, which also cross connect to the dragon, which are also very similar to the horseshoe. And then you got the personal sign that she gave me, which had to do with, her naming my knife, which was the last one, which is the JX Omega. And that one, I think it's Friday. So it's like the 27th is when that gets released, which is, a couple days away from is almost like an early warning marker. Like this symbol keeps coming up, and this symbol means the end. There's nothing here that we can draw definite conclusions on, but we haven't seen like this kind of like symbol connective type stuff for a month and a half or so. It kind of like all faded away, and now it's all screaming back. And this Omega sign is like in the middle of most of it. And the astrology connects to all these different things that have to do with revelation and dragons. So I don't know. I think we're definitely back in the time frame, the watch time frame again. And just assume, like with everything you see going on in the news, everyone's, let's start some new wars right on time. Like nobody could have possibly predicted that you were going to pull that card. Like when you see the script, like it's all so freaking obvious now. It's all so freaking obvious. We've already determined that life cannot continue the way things are. So maybe that is why she's been pushing me to make all this new stuff like the bracelets and stuff that kind of just bust through whatever thing is still holding you back. Which I just figured out how to make these Charles Benedict bracelets better just by putting another smaller metal on it. So maybe I'll order some more of those and just add them to all of them. But yeah, all these things are popping up, all these symbols. So let me know what other things that you've seen that tie into any of this, or did anything that I say like jostle anything in your head that makes you think of other signs and symbols that you're seeing right now? Because a lot of them are popping up, and they have most of them, the ones that are repeating the most for me are the things that have to do with that Omega symbol, injustice, justice and scales. Injustice and scales to me equates to day of the Lord, because she talked about all this stuff before it made any sense. Starting back in May, early May, I think it was, when she started talking about dragons. And one thing led to another. It's just like, finally kind of getting into that time frame. We don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm here for it. Let's get this, because I can't unplug myself. Although she has been, that's another thing that she did. So in the last couple of videos, she's been teaching us and we explained it to people, the mental process for learning to disconnect, which resets things and clears things. So it's like practice disconnecting, practice letting go of the world, practice letting go of the self, the ego mind. And then today it's like, let's make this new crazy oil for these bracelets and give them out to everybody. And that's meant to just break down any possible thing that is still holding you back. That was in the last video. And then the sudden rush of orders that we've gotten that is above and beyond anything since I started doing it. And the only thing that makes sense to me is people are feeling something on a deep subconscious level and they're trying to connect to the light however they can. So what do you think? What kind of stuff that I said in here jumped out at you? Okay, so let's wrap this up for right now. For those that are going to inevitably ask, yeah, the crazy charge things that we talked about in the last video, we'll come up with other ways to get that. I'm just waiting on some feedback from the first couple people and figure out a way to do that. But might work that into the Bilumina coffee thing. I don't know, but we'll know soon. We'll know soon. I just need to get in the hands of a couple people first. But you can reach us through the Etsy store, clumencreations.etsy.com. And even though it's not like specifically listed and all that, that's what she's got me doing now. Like you get a pendant or anything like that, we're putting these crazy charged, like this is probably one of the most powerful things we've ever made. Again, last video, in case you skipped it, it would be this one. We explained everything that we did with it. We're including those at no extra charge with everything. That's the push right now. It's all this breaking free stuff. Okay, so I'll probably keep an eye out on Kenneth's channel because he watches channels that I don't watch. And everyone's starting to pick up on things that are taking place either biblically or astrologically within this next month. Either which way, it is inevitable with what's going on politically. Like we're coming up to this crazy election. And somebody said something in a comment today. It wasn't my channel. I just saw it. And it's like, you know what? They're right. It was like people that have all the power over something would rather burn down the castle than let someone else take it over. So it's either which way. October being lit is pretty much like a guarantee. Like there's no other way around it. They're just doing all sorts of craziness right now. But we're not freaked out about that. We're excited about that because we have the higher script. We're not invested in this fake world game. She's guiding us on how to prepare ourselves to step out of this virtual freaking reality game and go home. That's what I'm looking for. I want to go home. So that's what's coming. So to me, it's not doom. It's not doom. It's only doom if you're an ego. All right. So that's all we got for right now. Chris and Lumen. See you next time.